ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्.
Started with the new thing. Now we are creating a file called as google.txt. We created this file and then we are checking whether this file exists or it does not. After creating a file, obviously it will exist. So this will turn as true. In the next line, I'm going to write file f dot delete on exit. Delete on exit. Okay. And after that, I'm going to wait for say around 10 seconds. Okay. Now you'll say wait for 10 seconds means what? When you are running this application and you want that after this particular point, your program should wait for some time and then execute something, then you should invoke a method called as thread.sleep. Okay. So I'm going to say thread.sleep with T as in capital. Yeah. Thread.sleep and sleep for 10 seconds. Okay. So give it as 10,000. Yeah. Okay. Now after that again I'm going to check f.system.out.println exist or no. Yeah. So replicate it on line number 11. No, let it be, no, let thread.sleep be. Okay. Okay, fine, that's fine. So now here whenever we are clicking on delete, it will not delete the file. We will go and check it out ourselves that even after invoking delete, did our file got deleted or it did not get deleted. After that, for those 10 seconds it is going to sleep. Why am I giving sleep over here? So that we can physically go and check whether the file has been deleted or not. Delete on exit and sleep has got no connection. Please keep that in mind. The sleep I am putting so that I can myself go and check over there. And then again we are going to print f.exit exist, whether the file is existing. What would be printed over here? True, because it is going to delete, it would get deleted after you come out of this particular loop. Okay. So now please go and execute this problem. He's first going to save it as file test2.java. Okay. Now run this application. Now when you compile, you're going to get errors. Okay. That it's going to throw IO exception and all that stuff. So I would go back to my edit plus, and here after public static void main, I'm going to say throws exception. And again, we even forgot to import the IO package into our system. So we need to even write that. Okay, now we'll go and say import java.io.star. That's it. Okay, now save it and compile it. File test2.java. Java file test2. Run the application. File existing? Yes, true, because we created a file. Now go back. Where you are running the program, in the E drive. You should go back before 10 seconds. My computer, E. Where is your Google? It got deleted because I guess we ran short of time. Okay, go back to your command prompt. Again, after 10 seconds elapsed, what happened? After 10 seconds, I checked again whether the file exists. It still gave me true even though it executed your delete on exit. Okay, and after that, after your program is exited, it must have deleted the file. Now let's go back to the API and expose some more new methods. Okay. Okay. Exist again. We have used this quite often. Get absolute file. It gives you the entire file path name where your file is lying. So, see, now you'll tell me what does it mean. Suppose in some program or in some method you're receiving a file object. Okay, you only receive the file object. You don't know what the name of this particular file is, or you don't know where this file has come from. Okay, at that time you are going to use get absolute file or get absolute path in order to get the path from where this particular file is residing or where this particular file is exactly located. Okay, just use this particular method, get absolute path, so that they can see it. System.out.println. Go back to the API once. Now here, get absolute file is going to return you a file. On the file you are supposed to extract the name of the file. Get absolute path is also going to give you the same thing, but it is going to give you in the format of your string. This would give you an object. From object you should retrieve the name. This is going to give you directly the name or the entire path of the file. So let's go and say get absolute path. System.out.println. File path. Just say file path. And give a space. Give a space there. That's it. That's it. Yeah. And now say f dot get absolute path. Get absolute path. Okay. Now just run this application once more. So whenever you are dealing with your file object, you are never going to interact with, you can never write into the file or read from the file. You can only manage the file object. You can create new file, you can delete the new file, you can rename the file. All the things which you can do with the file would be present in your file class. Okay, in order to read into a file, in order to write into a file and read from a file, you have got different bunch of classes altogether. Okay, so whenever you are dealing with the file object and if you want to manipulate the file object as to create it, delete it, temporary file, put it into a directory, all those things would be done with the help of the file class. Okay, now see, it's going to give the name of the file path is, it is there in E drive and the name of the file is google.txt. Now you would be saying, you are going on creating files. What if I want to create a directory? What am I supposed to do? Now here in Java, everything is treated as a file. You won't get any directory class as such. Okay, if you will say that I want to create a directory called skmit, what am I supposed to do? You still have to create a file object. Okay, because in Java, everything is a file. Nothing is directory or nothing is a text file or a document file or all those things. So now let's go a step forward and see how do we create directories and how does Java treat directories as files. So let's take a new class altogether. Okay, and give the name of the class as Java File Test 3. Import your file package. 3 or anything Java, don't give it so complicated. File test 3. Import the file package. java.io.star and then a semicolon, and now you just say file f equal to new file. Yeah, very good. He's throwing the exception right now itself. So you won't have any problem at the compilation time. And now just say on line number 6, file f equal new file com. com, and we would put it into the E directory. So just say E colon backslash, E colon your slashes, and say as com, com. Okay, this is the name of the file that we want to create. Now, is it a file actually? No, I want to create a directory, but since Java treats a file and a directory as same, I am creating an object of the file. Now, on file, I have got to tell this particular object, see boss, you don't have to create a file, you've got to create a directory. Okay, so go and say f dot make directory. F dot create make directory, make dir. No, make dir. Just see the name of the, or if you want to check out the signature, you can verify it with your API. It would be down, M. Make dir, mk dir, okay. So file test 3. Okay, now make dir, execute this, compile it and execute it. And then let's check whether the directory got created or not. Javac file test3.java, Java file test3. Okay, now let's go back to our E drive and check out whether we have any directory called as com. Do we have it? Yes. Let's go inside the directory. It's empty. Okay, we have not put anything inside it. Now what if I want to create nested directories? That means inside com I want Genesis. Inside Genesis I want KMIT. Okay, what am I supposed to do at that time? Okay, let's see how to do it. The only thing you need to do is put a backslash over here, slash, 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 double slashes. Okay, and say Genesis, and then put a backslash again and say KMIT. Okay, now here instead of calling make dir, since you have got couple of directories more, you are supposed to say dirs, dirs. Execute this program. Okay, let's go back to com and see, do we have Genesis? Yes. Inside Genesis, we have got even KMIT. Earlier, this was empty, and now we have got a complete directory structure. Now, what if I want to put a file into this KMIT? I want to put a google.txt. Then what am I supposed to do? I need to create another file object. Okay, go back to your edit plus. Now, go back, come here. File f1 equal to new file, because now I am not creating directories, I am creating a file. Okay, file f1. So now give the entire path and give the entire path ecom genesis, and after this give the name of the file which you actually want to create. Okay, slash google.txt. Yeah, that would be fine. Now again, what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to create a new file. So I'm going to say f1 dot create new file. Then you can even check that whether the file object which you got is a directory or it is not a directory and all that stuff. Save it and run it. Okay, now just let's go inside com genesis, go inside KMIT. Do we have a google.txt? Yes, we have. Okay, so now here ends our file class. What I want to do, what I would like to tell you people is, I would like to give you an assignment on this. Okay, what would be your assignment? Go home, check out the API and what all methods are there in your file. Just practice and execute and see what does each method do. Okay, so when you do this, you will come to know all the things which you can do with a file. That is all we would be talking about when your file is concerned. Now let's go back, or let's jump ahead to another chapter or to another section, which is reading from a file and writing into a particular file. How do we read data? How do we put or write the data into a particular resource? Okay, now since we are exploring the IO packages, what is IO again? IO is nothing but input output. What do you mean by input output? How your Java application deals with the output resources. Now again, what are resources? Resources is anything which is there on your computer system or can be attached to your computer system. Okay, now have you heard of socket? What is a socket? Socket is nothing but a port where your computer can listen the incoming data, or you can write something onto the socket. So whenever I want to communicate, when my one computer wants to talk to another computer, how does it talk? They won't talk to each other, okay, because they are machines, they are not humans. Now whenever one machine wants to talk to other machine, how would it communicate? It would send data. Okay, by what? It would send data onto some port. Okay, now that particular port is called as socket. Okay, so now one machine wants to send data to other machine onto a socket. I'll have to write onto the socket. Now when the other machine receives that particular data, what it's going to do? It's going to listen to the socket. Okay, and it will see, oh, somebody has written into the socket, so I should read it. So one computer is going to write hi onto the socket of one machine. The other machine is going to read from the socket hi. Okay, then what would happen? I am going to say how are you and blah blah blah. I would write it into my socket and the other machine is going to read it from the socket. So the communication between the two computers, this particular thing is a very huge area called as networking, which we would be covering in a separate section altogether. But right now I want to tell you that you've got different resources. Okay, one is file, the other is socket, the third one is your database, fourth is your printer, fifth is your scanner, seventh is your keyboard, your mouse. All these things are what? They are different resources which can be attached to your computer, and your computer identifies or acknowledges their presence, and depending on that it's going to do something. Okay, so now how does the computer know that, okay boss, I am supposed to write onto the socket? Okay boss, I'm going to write something into a file. There is something called as input streams and output streams, okay, or streams. Input streams means I'm going to get the data. I'm going to get the data from this particular resource. When you say get the data, means you're reading the data. So please don't get confused between input and output. Input means getting data, means I am reading the data. So in case you want to read from a database, you want to read from a socket, you want to read from the printer, you want to read from a file, you are going to make use of input streams. Okay? Now, what if the computer wants to write the data, or your Java application wants to write the data onto your file, onto your socket, onto your printer, onto your scanner and all those things? Now, when your Java application wants to talk or wants to write on other resources, then you are going to make use of output streams. Is it clear? So now, input is for reading, output is for writing. Streams is nothing but the only mechanism which is available for your Java application to talk to other resources. Now, depending upon different types of resources, you will have different streams. Please note this carefully. What do I mean by that? Now, I have a file. File is a resource? Yes. It is a different type of a resource. Socket is a resource? Yes, socket is also a resource. Is file different than socket? Yes, definitely. File comes into a different category, socket comes into a different category. So now, in order to write into a file, I will use a different set of input streams to read from a file. Sorry, I am only giving it wrong. When I am talking about file, to write into a file, I will use a different set of output stream. To read from a file, I would use a different set of input streams. When I have to write onto a socket, I am going to use a different class of output stream. If I want to read from a socket, I would use a different class for input stream. Same for if I want to talk to a database, if I want to talk to a printer, or if I want to talk to a scanner. For every little thing, you've got different streams altogether. So now, we are going to use a very basic resource that is nothing but our file. Okay? So we are going to write something into a file. So we would make use of input streams, which is nothing but your file input streams. We are going to read from the, we are going to write means we are going to make use of file output streams. If we are going to read from the file, we are going to make use of file input streams. Okay? So now let's go further, and what we are going to do is, we are going to create a file object called as kmit.txt, and using this particular object, we are going to write something into the object. Okay? So, enter. Okay. Now, instead of writing it, why don't we read something from the system? So, you do one thing, create a text object in your E drive, go to your folder E. Do you have kmit.txt? No, you don't have. So create one. Or use your, you already have abc.txt. What is written inside abc.txt? This is KMIT. Okay, now let's do one thing. We will read whatever is there in my abc.txt. So go to your edit plus. Okay, now here I want to read a file which is already existing in my system. Now for that, what I need to do? I need to create a file object with what name? With the pre-existing name. Okay, so now I am going to here write it as abc.txt. Okay, remove this line number 7. Okay, so I am creating a file object f1 which is referring to abc.txt onto the system. Okay, now what I need to do? I need to read this particular file. In order to read this from a particular file, I want one input stream. Okay, input stream is used for reading it. Now what kind of a resource is this? It is a file. So I would make use of a file input stream. So go and say file input stream. File input stream is nothing but a class in your Java. So again you will say file input stream f equal to fis equal to new file input stream. Now whenever you are creating input streams, you have to tell to that class by for what, which particular object you are creating input stream. I am creating a reader, but what do I have to read? I need to tell that, and I need to tell that at the time of construction. So whenever you are creating your file input stream, at that time you are supposed to inform your input stream that, see boss, I want to read abc.txt. abc.txt is nothing but your f1. So I am going to give here as f1. f1. Okay, so I am creating an input stream, a file input stream, in order to read the file, and the name of the file is nothing but abc.txt. This is what I am telling on line number 7. Okay, and now I am going to read from that particular file. I am going to say fis.read. Yeah. Now go to the API and show file input stream. Where is it? Now here, come down, click over here, and you will see the go to the constructors. Okay, file. You have got to give the file input stream which file you are going to use. Okay, now come over here. Read. Read is going to give you what? It is going to give you an integer. What is this integer? It is nothing but the ASCII value. Okay, so read is going to give you the ASCII value of the particular byte which it is going to read. So now what I am going to do is go back and take it in your int I. Int I equal to read. Okay, and now just say while I is not less than, not equal to -1, I am going to put it into a while loop, because till the time I don't reach the end, I will not get it as -1. No, it's not end of file, it is not C. Okay, I is not less than or equal to -1. -1 indicates your end of file. Okay, I'm going to go on reading it. Okay, now first of all, I'm going to say system.out.println. I'm going to write the character which I read. Okay, now I want to write the character which I read. I can't write directly my I. So I'm going to typecast it to char. Typecast it to char. CHAR. And I. And give here as I. And then read it again, so that it is inside the while loop. Okay. So what am I doing over here? I read my first character. I checked whether it is less than -1. Then I'm coming over here and printing it. Okay. Now since this I is nothing but my ASCII character, I'm going to typecast it to char and then print the character. So we will get it as T rather than the ASCII value of T. Compile it and run it. File test 3.java, and now Java file test 4, sorry. Yeah. Okay, it did not print anything. What we would do, we would compile it. Earlier it was not coming because we were doing it as greater than thing. It will never come as greater than -1. Okay, so you've got to just say while I is not equal to -1. -1 is nothing but end of file. Okay, so till the time you don't reach end of file, you've got to continue with your while loop. Okay, now it is coming as this is KMIT. Whatever was there in your abc.txt, it is coming it like this. Now why is it coming it like this? Because you are specifying system.out.println. Print each character in the next line. Let's go to edit plus. Okay, make sure that this is not equal to, not greater than. Okay, now instead of println, I would just say print. Okay, and now it would come into your horizontal way. This is KMIT. So we have a file, we had written something into the file, and our Java program is now capable of reading something from a file. Now let's see how do we write it into a file. Okay, so now we'll create a file copy program. Okay, file copy means what? Okay, so now there is a file called as abc. See what would happen. There is a file called as abc.txt. I am going to read from this file. Whatever I have read from this file, I am supposed to write it into another file. This is nothing but a file copy program. At the end, what will I get? I will get the duplicate of abc.txt. So for this, how many files do I need in total? I need 2 files. One is already existing, one I need to create. So let's create one. Okay, let's say file f2 equal to new file f2, new file, and let's name the file as copy.txt. Copy.txt. Now, we are supposed to write into the copy.txt file. What we are supposed to write? Whatever we read from abc.txt, we are supposed to write. Now, in order to write anything onto a resource, what do you need? An output stream. What is the kind of a resource? File. So, what would you need? You would need file output stream. So, let's create an object of file output stream. File output stream, FOS, equal to new file output stream. Now, you are supposed to write onto which file? You need to tell it to your output stream that, see boss, I am creating you for writing, but at the time of creation, you should know in which file you should be able to go and write. So, for what am I creating? Copy.txt. So, I am going to give F2 over here. Now, I need to write into it. So, what I am going to do? While I am printing, I am going to write. Come over here. No. After this. Say FOS.write and write the I. Because whatever you are reading would be in this particular I. Don't write it as character. Give it as I directly. Because let's write the ASCII values only. Okay? So I am saying FOS.write. Now, the main thing or one thing you guys should keep in mind when you are dealing with output streams, okay, you should always flush them and close them, okay. So what am I going to do? After the while loop, I am going to flush my output stream. Flushing the output stream means what? I am ensuring that whatever data was onto the output stream should go and reach where? It should go and reach the resource. So I am going to say FOS.flush, okay, and FOS.close. I am not going to write any more things on it. I am closing it. Okay. Now just compile it. Okay. Now the copy has already been created. Let's see what is there into our copy.txt. So we would go to e-files and just search whether do you have a file called as copy.txt? Yes. What is there in the file? Open it. This is KMIT. Whatever we read from abc.txt, we have written it into our copy.txt. Okay. So I guess this was fairly very easy, but you need to practice it in order to master on it. Okay. So now, what we have learned so far? We have learned about file, how to create a file, how to delete a file, how to obtain the path name of a particular file, how to check whether it is read or write, or how to create directories. All those things we have done. Then we studied whenever we want to communicate to any kind of a resource, we do that with the help of streams. Communicate is always two ways. Read or write. For reading, you need input stream. For writing, you need output stream. Based on the type of resource you are using, you would use a different set of input streams. We have seen that for file, we require file input stream and file output stream. Okay, now since we have some time left, what we are going to do is explore these input streams. Okay, let's see what all methods are there in our file input stream and file output stream. So let's go back to file input stream first, where we are supposed to read the data. Okay, let's see the methods one by one. Available. This particular method is going to tell you how many characters are available in your particular file. Okay, it's going to tell you, it's going to return the number of bytes that can be read from this file input stream without blocking. Okay, so whenever you have got available, it's going to give you the total number of bytes which are there into your file. Okay, close. Again, input streams should always, or all kind of streams, input stream as well as output streams should always be closed after using them, because if you keep them as open, your resource is engaged. If anybody is trying to access your resource, then it would not be able to use that resource because you're engaging him with your input stream or your output stream. So you should always close it once your work is done. We forgot actually to close our input stream, by the way. Okay. Finalize is nothing but it's coming from your object class. Now this get channel, get FT, you guys won't use it. It is very rarely used when you're doing with networking and all that stuff. Okay. Now read. It reads the data and gives you the ASCII character of it. Now this particular thing, read bytes. Now suppose you want to read only a chunk of data. You don't want to read your entire file. Then what you need to give, you need to create a byte array of your size. Suppose I want to read only 32 bits, okay, or 32 bytes. What I would do, I would create an array of 32 bytes, and then I'm going to tell my input stream that, see boss, I have this array of 32 bytes and I want to read only this much from the file. Okay, I need to pass the reference of that particular byte, and then that data would be put into my array, or only 32 bytes from the entire file is going to be put into my array. Same thing goes for your offset thing also. Here, when you give byte array, it's going to do from starting to the length of the file. When you are talking about offset, you can choose in between data also. Come down. That's all. Okay, so main thing of your input stream is nothing but to read. Let's have a look at your file output stream. Okay, close again, we have closed it. Come down. The same thing, it would write into a particular byte, it would write if you are saying that this is KMIT, I want to start from is to KMIT, then I have got to give the starting offset, the entire length, and all this data would be put into my particular byte. Okay, mainly we never use all those things, we use same plain vanilla write or write bytes. Okay.